Well, good afternoon, everyone. Darren Saul here, your host of Playing with Perspective. Very excited today. I've got a guest all the way from Boise, Idaho, even though his background is of the beach. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing fantastic. Doing fantastic.
Thank you very much for coming on the show, and we welcome you from the other side of the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was actually there right before pre-COVID. So,
Oh, how cool! Well done.
yeah.
I'm going to get over to that end one day. But Jeff is here all the way from Boise, Idaho, as I mentioned. And today we're going to be chatting about how to find your soulmate in 120 days or less. So, Jeff Krahl is an international business consultant, best selling author, and certified high performance coach with over 25,000 plus hours of empowering clients in breaking through their limiting beliefs so they can live their ideal life. He's the author of a best-selling book, The Fifth Power for Relationships, 5 Key Secrets to Finding Your Soulmate. His purpose in life is through integrity, fun, and happiness. He empowers others to live an extraordinary life beyond their beliefs so that they live a life of endless possibilities. So welcome again, Jeff. Really excited to have a chat about, these 5 powers. We had a bit
Mhm.
of a chat before the show, and I'm really excited to get into that. But maybe give us a little bit of a snapshot as to, who you are and how did you fall into this line of work, and just, a bit more of your backstory.
Yeah, sure. Like you said, I'm an international business coach, and I actually coached quite a few clients there in Australia,
Yeah, great.
everywhere from on all sides of Australia, so
Wow.
all the way from Perth to Sydney and so on. Um, but basically, I was a coach, and I was coaching business owners, and then one day, my client in Sydney was struggling
Mhm.
on his business, and I was helping them find ideal clients, like the best clients that are out there, and when he got on the phone with me, he was frustrated. He felt depressed. He felt like, hey, I should just sell my business and move on. And I remember getting on the phone thinking, no, why are you thinking that? What's going on? What's going on here? It's just something that was just not like him,
Yep.
like he was usually. And I remember just telling him, "Oh, you can do this. You're smarter than me. You can make this happen." And I was like, I mean, if I could just drop ship me in Sydney and find an ideal client in less than 30 days, I said you should be able to find two, three, four. And and I remember him just stopping and going, "Well, then Jeff, what would you do? Tell me."
Love it.
And I went through these 5 steps of what to do.
Cool.
And as soon as I got done, he was like excited, he was motivated, his energy was up, he was alive and ready to get to work, and hung up on the phone. And I remember just looking in the mirror and thinking to myself, wow, that was some good advice. Right.
Yeah.
And
Well
then, and
done.
then and then I had that second thing that we've all probably gone through, which is like, I should probably take that advice for myself.
Yep. Yep. I do that all the time. I think, what is it that I said the other day? What did I coach? What did I teach? I better start applying that to me.
It's like, and that's what happened. I was like, man, and I just got present that in relationships, that's how I was being, just like him.
Yep.
I felt like it was hopeless. I felt frustrated with the dating process. I felt, all these things were there. And deep down inside, I knew I still really wanted it. Like I would
Nice.
tell him, oh, yeah, when it comes, it comes. Or, when I meet the right person, the timing will be right. I would
Yeah.
say all these things, but deep down inside, it was like, no, I really, really wanted it. I just didn't want to tell people that.
Love it.
And,
So true. Yeah.
and so anyhow, I had this epiphany right then. And so I just decided to follow my own advice, and I went through these 5 steps, which I now call my fifth power formula.
Nice.
I didn't call it that there. I was just giving them the 5 steps at the time. And then, and I went through that, and I basically went on 43 dates. in
Wow.
120 days to find my beautiful wife, who I've now been married to for almost 14 years here in a few more
Amazing.
days.
Amazing.
And, we have 4 kids, and, none of that would have happened if I just didn't have that awareness
Yep.
at that moment when I was
And you
looking in
did
the
the
mirror,
work.
which
You see,
blows
you
me away.
decided to do the work.
I just decided, I
Yeah.
was just like, okay, I'm going to just do this. And the crazy part is, um, I didn't use any apps.
Right.
You
That was going to
know,
be my next question. I said, did you
I
use
didn't
internet
use
apps or anything?
anything like that. I literally, all the dates that I went on were all by introductions from my community.
Wow.
I
That's awesome.
believe in, I don't know, call it the 6 degrees of separation,
Yep.
but basically, I knew that my soulmate was around me. I just didn't know, like, how is it that you can attract your soulmate? And it was the same way I was teaching clients on how to, my business clients on how to attract their best clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the funny part is, usually for them, they wanted to have, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 clients,
Yep.
right? And I only need one soulmate.
Yep. And here's a question. I mean, obviously, a lot of people and a lot of coaches are probably thinking this right now. When you decided to embark on that process, did you know yourself what you were looking for, or you had to actually sit down and map that out for yourself?
Well, I learned a long time ago is before you map out, and this is an important factor because this is a big mistake that people make all the time. Before you map out what it is that you're looking for and who you are looking for,
Hmm.
you need to reset your mindset and your beliefs to be in alignment to attracting whatever you create as that soulmate or
Yep.
ideal partner, or however you want to describe it. I call it soulmate, but
Yep.
she was the woman of my dreams and my ideal partner,
Yeah. Yeah.
my significant other, however that is, right?
So you got to be ready, regardless of what it is you want to attract. You got to be ready to even put out the right energy to attract anybody.
Yeah, I mean, because we're a body of energy, right? I mean, everything we do is energy, and I think most people don't realize that, right? I mean, we're literally a body, and then it becomes, our organs, right? And then inside our organs are cells, and inside our cells are atoms, and inside atoms are energy.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's who we are. We're an energy field, and you're either activating those cells and those atoms and really attracting that, or you're not, right?
Yep.
And so I really had to reset my mindset first, and then I created what I called my top 5 qualities and attributes and characteristics that I was looking for, and got really good at communicating those so that people would know exactly, like, this is exactly who he's looking for.
Nice.
And then literally introductions were coming to me just in crazy
Yeah.
places too. I remember one time I was actually talking to my buddy at Starbucks. So that's big here in the United States. I know it's not so big there.
Yeah. We all know Starbucks. Yeah. Everybody's had a Starbucks coffee at some point.
Yeah. So anyhow, I was just chalking in line, and he's like, "Well, what are you up to?" And I told him I'm looking for my soulmate, and I went through my top 5 qualities, and next thing you know, I had this lady tap me on the back. She's like, "I'm sorry, I was listening into your conversation.
No way.
I think I know who your soulmate is. Can I introduce you to her?"
Oh, that's amazing. How cool is that?
But that's the energy, right? That's the
Yep.
vibration that you're giving out that creates that.
I
And
love
I think the more you're able to like really focus in on that and utilize that, the faster your results are,
it. Yep.
you know. So
Well, you've given me a great tip. I'm going to start going to Starbucks more often now. So, Jeff, before we get into your 5 superpowers, what other, I mean, we mentioned a couple of things, but what do you think are the main stumbling blocks that hold people back from finding their soulmate?
um there's quite a few that show up, but there's 3 major ones I like to say and I call them the three deadly and invisible forces.
Wow. Okay.
So these are the three most common that I always bump into when people get stopped at achieving their goals,
Yep.
and especially in finding your soulmate. And
Nice.
the first one is what I like to call doing it all on your own.
Mm.
So it's kind of being that lone wolf and trying to do everything and live your whole life all by yourself in this little mindset that you don't share with
Yep.
others,
This cocoon.
right?
Yep.
And a little cocoon, and yeah, you're basically, you know, like trying to find your soulmate secretly,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You're on all these dating apps, you're jumping from one thing to the next thing.
Yep.
You're trying, speed dating, you're trying matchmaking, you're trying dating services, you're trying the newest app,
Yep.
you know, and you're just bouncing all over. And take it, you're really trying. Like
Yeah.
you're really working hard. And these are the people that typically experience the sense of being frustrated, burned out. They find themselves going up and down,
Yep.
right? Like,
Yep.
oh yeah, I'm gonna find that person, and then next week it's like, forget it. I'm done with it. I'm
Yep.
over it. Not
Yep.
gonna do it anymore. And then a week later or a month later or 3 months later, it's like, okay, I'm back. I got to find that person. I really want them,
Love it.
and they just go through that roller coaster type thing. So
Gotcha.
that would be the first one where people get stopped and they go up and down with that.
Yep.
So
And they do it alone, as you say. They're not sharing
yeah,
it
and
with
right, they're not
community.
telling people. They're not telling because they're afraid typically to look bad.
Yep.
They're afraid to fail.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're afraid that if they shared that with others, then they'll think something's wrong with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just
Right?
highlighted a great point. I mean, you were in Starbucks and and your friend said, what are you up to? And you said, I'm looking for my soulmate. And if you didn't do that, if you didn't share that, that woman wouldn't have tapped you on the shoulder. So
Yeah, I would have
perfect
said,
example.
yeah, I'm doing well. I'm
Yeah,
doing
everything's
good.
good. Doing my work.
Life's
I'm doing
great.
this. I'm doing that. Yeah.
Just went and played sand volleyball. I'm
Yeah.
good. Life's, having
So
fun.
really good point. I
Living
like
life.
that.
I'm living life, buddy.
Yeah.
And it's so vague,
Yeah.
right? That definitely she would have never tapped me on the shoulder,
Yeah.
right?
So
Now
there
take
you
it
go.
that wasn't my wife. She didn't introduce me to my, but that would have been a great story.
Oh, it would have been a great story. but it's a perfectly valid point. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And so that's the first one. The second one is what I call naysayers.
Mm.
So this is basically your family, friends, coworkers, the people around you. They say little comments, right? That actually really, I would say most of them don't really permanently want to stop you. They're that like purposely
Yep.
saying it,
Yep.
right? They're just saying these little comments like, why don't you just do this?
Yeah.
Or, I can't believe you broke up with that person. They were really good.
Yeah.
Or, maybe if you stop doing this, then you would be able to find your soulmate.
Gotcha.
Right. Or, and they say all these little teeny comments, to the point where it wouldn't be such a big deal if internally you weren't already thinking all these limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
So, you might be saying, well, I'm not good enough, or I'm not successful enough, or I'm not, beautiful enough, or handsome enough, or
Yeah. Don't make enough money, or
I don't make enough
drive the right
money,
car,
or,
whatever.
how, I don't have a home, or, I'm not set for the future, all these things that you say to yourself internally, which are limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Like they truly aren't true, but we've created this in our head.
Yep.
That they are true. And then when your family and colleagues and friends say these little teeny comments, you just go, oh yeah, see, that matches up
It's reinforcing
with my
what you
limiting
think.
my belief. So it must be true. So yes, I will stop. I'm not
Gotcha.
going to do anything.
Gotcha. Or
right?
you'll subconsciously self-sabotage.
Or you'll sabotage it, right? Yeah, exactly. But it ends up with the same result, which is not on the path of really finding your soulmate.
Yep.
Right.
Gotcha.
And I think that's another major one, and that shows up that most of my clients, like when you ask the right questions, they'll come up and just literally start to say all these things, and it's like, well, how did that happen? And it's sure enough, it's grounded in some sort of limiting belief that's right there.
Wow, amazing, awesome.
Yeah.
And
And then
number
the
three?
and then number three would be, this one is interesting because it's something that typically shows up for people, and so when you have trying to do it all on your own,
Mhm.
right, and then you have naysayers, then the biggest thing in today's world is distractions, right? So I like to call this shiny object
I
syndrome,
was just about to say that one, the shiny object syndrome. We hear that a
right?
lot these days.
And it's just like, in today's world, it's harder than ever,
Yep, absolutely.
because there's so many shiny objects of new apps,
Yep,
right? There's so many social medias that are coming out and been out that you go through. And,
yep.
there's so many email bells and notifications, and
Oh,
you're handling this cell phone, around you all time. And,
yep.
there's so many things, and all those things just distract you, and you find yourself just going through the flow, bouncing from one thing to the next thing with nothing really focused on exactly what you really want,
Mhm.
like finding your soulmate.
Yep,
And so that tends to,
yep,
for people that are single, that tends to have them, one, not do anything to find their soulmate, and they just pray and wait in
yep.
hopes that that person's going to show up,
Yeah.
right? And then the second thing is they just follow people, like, oh yeah, I'm going to this club, or I'm going to this bar, why don't you come with me? Or,
Yep.
hey, there's this, okay, sure, why not?
Yep.
There's no actual plan
Yeah. It's
to
all this
actually find people.
activity without any strategy.
None whatsoever.
Yep.
And I think that's a major thing that's out there, is no strategy,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Like, I mean, if you ask successful people how they found their soulmate, usually it was by accident, right? It was like, well, I was at this event, I just bumped into this person, I wasn't even expecting it, and lo and behold, we were a good fit, and we've lived happily ever after, right? And some people find online, I mean, like, online isn't too bad, but the problem is it's like still a needle in the haystack,
Yep. So true.
and I always think the divorce rate is so high, especially here in the US. I'm not quite sure in
Yeah.
Australia, but I mean, it's like worse than 50%, for first year marriage. I think over 40 years, like a combined of the last 40 years, the US is 67% that you are going to have your divorce in the first year.
Oh my God. That's
Now, last
incredible.
I checked, that's a D, right? Almost
That's
an F,
crazy numbers.
right? So
First year.
a D and an F means either I'm not studying right, right?
Wow.
Or the process of how they're teaching me this definitely sucks.
That's really surprising to me.
you
I
know,
understand
and
those numbers, but in the first year?
that's over 40 years. Like a clue, and take it, it's gotten better. Like, I think we're at like 50% now,
Right. Yeah.
right? So, but I mean, still 50-50 is still, versus 37% is still a terrible statistic,
Yeah, absolutely.
and especially when it's someone you're going to spend the rest of your life with. It's like, and then here's the funny part. By year two, those rates get worse.
Oh
So
my God.
if you get a divorce and then you get into a second relationship and get married, there's even more chance that that's going to get divorced.
Ah, you
And
mean
if
if
you
in
get
your second marriage?
in your second marriage,
Oh
and if
my
you go to
God.
your third marriage, it's even worse than the
Oh
first
Lord.
one and the second one. So, so that's why I say your beliefs are such a key aspect
Yep.
inside of it, because all you're doing is carrying, you're the common denominator in these
Exactly. Yep.
relationships, and you're just carrying those same limiting beliefs. And that's why it gets worse and worse every time,
Yep.
is because you're confirming these things for
Yep.
every relationship.
You're
And it
living
just,
this self-fulfilling prophecy.
you
Uh,
totally are. And
yeah.
most of the time it's unconscious, right?
Yep.
Like,
Exactly.
if you're on autopilot and you have no clue that this is happening
Yep.
in the background. And if they were videotaping you and you had to watch yourself like some sort of a reality
Wow.
show, you would be like, why is that guy doing that?
Crazy, Jeff. Wow, that's crazy. I mean, those numbers freak me out. But I mean, really good stuff because it leads us to really think about what we're doing and put a strategy together, with a premeditated strategy that's forethought with self awareness so we know how to achieve what we want to achieve and we can change those patterns as well. And just, I suppose, to recap for everybody, these 5 key powers that we're going to talk about are not only applicable to dating or your love life, they're applicable to business, your life in general, and everything else. Is that right?
Yeah, it's all about achieving a goal, right?
Awesome.
It's all about achieving a goal. And the soulmate thing just happened for me in 120 days.
Yeah.
So I thought that, and here's the funny part, I thought that was an extraordinary number, right? And to tell you the truth, I didn't plan on 120 days. it, I this is something I did. I call it the commitment push.
Right.
And basically, I purchased 2 fully paid cruise tickets for
Oh.
me and the woman of my dreams before I started asking and going out on dates.
No
Okay?
way.
And I did this in March, and the cruise wasn't until New Year's because I thought, well, I would find the woman that I'm going to marry.
Yep.
Right? We'd go on this cruise at the end of the year and celebrate the new year and start creating our future for the future, right?
Yep.
And I would tell people we'd be sipping daiquiris at the deck of this cruise, and this would be the woman I'm going to marry. And I call it the commitment push because it's something that you're committing yourself to doing in the future. That's a reward. Most of the time you do negative things or whatever. I love rewards. Like you're really celebrating the result of your goal.
I
Right?
love that. That's pretty
And
bold.
so I did that. But here's the funny part is I thought I had till the end of the year until the ticket lady said, you're going to the Caribbean. You need a passport. We need to know who's leaving the country.
Yep.
So I need a name, and I'm like, well, when's the latest? And of course she said, well, it's like in end of August, which was like 160 days out. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then I didn't realize until I was like, man, that's not too far away. I better get in action.
That's incredible. And you did it in 120 days or 160?
And I did it in 120 days. Wow. But then I started coaching people, and man, they did. I've got people that are much faster than me, and less dates. Like they didn't have to go on all the dates that I went on. I feel like I'm a loser by doing that.
That's fantastic, Jeff. I love that. So tell us how you did it. What are your 5 key powers?
Yeah. So there's 5 core. I call it the 5th power formula, and these secret powers are all in order. However, I start with the 5th power first because that's the one that's intertwined in the other 4 powers all together. Gotcha. Like it's really the circle of everything that needs to happen. Yep. And the 5th power is really your mindset, right? It's about creating the right mindset and setting the right intentions so that you show up being present in the moment. And it's like sending the right vibrations to the world to attract. So we know like magnets connect, right? And I can either flip the magnet over and detract with the wrong vibration, or I can turn it over and connect with the right one. And so that's what my 5th power is all about. And, I have a whole step on how do you look at those limiting beliefs? How do you reframe them? How do you reprogram them in your mindset? Because most of the time, our limiting beliefs, we have hundreds and hundreds of them. We probably say some of them most often, and they're probably connected to a lot of those 100 ones that are behind it. But if you just reprogram your top 5 most common limiting beliefs, you'd be surprised how much you can change. Not only your, finding your soulmate, but it transforms your work, it transforms your health, transforms everything. So
Absolutely.
that's the first power that has to be done. Like I said earlier, you have to change that mindset before you start to figure out who you're looking for.
Awesome. And kind of when you mentioned before that you bought those cruise tickets, not to, you know, tell everybody to go and buy cruise tickets, but when you set yourself that goal and you set yourself that end date, that kind of, in a way, aligns your mindset in the right direction.
Yeah, and definitely, yeah, with a specific date.
Yep.
Like I thought I had the date at the end of the year,
Yep.
but then when I had to realign it earlier, your mind knows how to judge that, thinking, oh, well, we really, really got this is important. They're really
We got to
saying
get
this.
to work now. Let's go.
I got to get to work in here. Let's reshape these mindsets and
Yep.
let's get this woman for Jeff. Your
Yep.
mind really does want to succeed. The key is it's also looking to survive. And so it looks to its limiting beliefs in order to survive versus looking to your what I call your fifth power beliefs, right? Looking to thrive in life.
Yeah.
And so those are the core things that are in the first power, which is
Nice.
crucial.
Awesome. So mindset number one, or number
Yeah.
5, but really number 1.
Exactly. It's funny in my book. I also do in chapters, and it's like, let's start with the fifth power first.
Yeah. Why not? Let's shake it up.
And then the second one is the power of clarity and focus. So this is where you really start to identify who is that person.
Yep.
And I really walk you through a step-by-step way on how to identify it. It's not just about creating a big long list. You really need to know, like for yourself, like what are the human drivers for you that drive you?
Mhm.
And then, what are the core characters, attributes, values that are there for you? Because most of the time you can find everything else you want inside of those things.
Yep.
And this is the foundation piece that I was telling you about. I think this is the core thing of why divorces happen, is because if the foundation has cracks in it, right? Meaning the characters isn't there,
Yep.
the attributes aren't there, the values aren't there, the qualities are not there.
Synergy is not right or whatever.
The synergy is not right, but all those things, if you start the relationship that way, right? Eventually you're going to build a second story or a third story or a fourth story, and that foundation is not going to be able to hold it.
Yep.
And it's going to come crumbling down, and you're going to be right in the middle of a divorce.
Yep.
And I think that's exactly what it is. But if you built the right foundation, then that everything can be adjusted and fixed and worked out, because you have the right qualities on the other person. They don't give up, you don't give up, and you work out whatever you need to.
Yep.
And we all have that in our relationships. I've had that in my relationships, where it comes in, but at least I know the foundation's there to have that conversation.
These are just minor tweaks, not major cracks.
Exactly. It's like, the roof is too old, so we need to replace it. No big deal.
Yep.
Right? It has nothing to do with the whole house coming down.
Yeah.
So
That's right. I like it. Nice.
So that's the second one. And then there's the power of asking in community.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this one is really important because this is the 6th degree of separation. I think most people don't ask for what they really want. Although there's that phrase in the Bible, right, that says, ask and you shall receive, right?
Yep.
But most people just don't ask.
Yep.
And the main reason they don't ask is they feel like, that people don't want to help them. When if they just ask themselves, if someone came to you and said, hey, do you think you could help me out? I don't need money. I don't need anything. I'm just, this is what I'm looking for.
Yep.
You think
Nice.
if you bump into that, you can just give me a call, right?
Yep. And you'd probably be surprised at how many people will do it.
And exactly. And so I think that's things that most people don't do is they're not vulnerable enough to share with what they really, really want. They're trying to hide it inside. That kind of goes back to that first thing that stops people doing it on their own, right? Versus asking their community. And so that's another major one. And then the planning and preparation. This is like for me, like in dating, it's really about going on the dates,
Yep.
right? Like, how do you make an extraordinary dating experience,
Hey, I like it.
right? And in a way where it's engaging enough for you to go deep into the qualities, attributes, and values to really find out, is there a connection, and is there chemistry or simpatico there for
Yep.
you to really connect for the long run or not? And you
Nice.
can do this very, very quickly. I mean, literally, I think I went on 32 first dates and 43 total. So I had some second dates there, right?
Nice. Yep.
But on the most part, I was clear at the end of that date. Yeah, she's a fit, she's not a fit, and it was okay with that, right?
And
But
these were mainly due to how you questioned, or was it the type of date that you set up, or was it
it was the
observation, or a bit of everything?
it was literally, I mean, it was literally the type of date that I created.
Gotcha.
So it was the experience. My thought was, okay, I'm going out on a date. I already know this person is looking for their soulmate, right? Because I literally knew about them before we have to went on a date.
Sure.
So I knew that they were interested in that. I know I'm interested in that. So how can I leave that person with value, even if I'm the wrong fit?
Wow, I like
So
that.
that was the mindset that I always wanted to have was, how do I make this an amazing date? So even if I'm not a not fit, they've learned something to the point about themselves or about what they want so that they too would be better off in the future.
Wow, that's really
Right.
impressive. What were
So
what were
I
one or two things that you did? What were one or two styles of dates that you created?
I think one of the big thing is I call it some sort of value experience that you have to do.
Hmm.
So my value experience was that famous book, the Five Languages of Love, right? So that's the conversational piece of value that I wanted to deliver to the other person on the date, whether we are connected or not.
Yep.
So I would just say, have you seen the book? Have you read the book? If they said yes, I would say, fantastic. Which one are you? Let's talk about it. If they
Nice.
said no, I would explain all five of the love languages, talk about my life, ask them about their life,
Cool. I like
and
that.
just have that interaction
Yep.
around that so that we would get to know each other from more of the lens of the five love languages versus the regular
Yeah.
interview type
Yeah. What do
questions
you
that people
do? How
try
long
to
have you been
do,
here, etc.
all that stuff, right? Because you didn't want to make it an interview because that's typically what most first dates are,
That's right.
and if you have these kind of conversations, you can get vulnerable very quickly in some of these conversations because all the walls come down and it's much easier to have real conversations, and you'll know immediately, like, yep, she's the one, or
Yeah.
nope, she's not the one.
I love it. Right.
And
And
vice versa for the
clever.
women. I teach women the same way, and they're clear with men. It's like, yeah, he's not really ready. Yep, he's definitely not going to commit. Yep, he's definitely, not looking for the long term relationship. He's looking for the short term thing.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
Okay. Awesome. I love the way you set that up because you built a whole framework in place to allow you both to explore more important aspects and deeper foundational concepts rather than just the boring, what do you do? What car do you drive? Et
Yeah,
cetera, et cetera, et
exactly.
cetera.
And
Do you
and
think
I
this? Do
and
you
I
like
teach
that?
people talk either about a book or an article or something that they've learned
Yeah.
that they can pass on that would be of value to someone that's looking to find that special person.
Nice.
So,
Love it.
and then the last one is the power of action and reflection, because you got to take action, got to be on the court. You can't be sitting in the stands watching the game. You got to be in the game dating,
Love it.
right? And this is the piece that most people forget, is actually going out on lots of dates,
Yeah.
you know, right? You can't become a professional if you don't actually do repetition
That's
of the
right.
same thing over and over.
You got to put in your
So,
10,000 hours.
yeah, exactly. The cool part is you don't need half of that in order to find your soulmate.
Thank God. Thank God for that.
Because you're only looking for one,
That's
right?
right. That's right. And obviously,
And
and as you mentioned, reflection probably a really important part of
yeah, and reflection is always, I like to make it really simple. It's just what were the two things that worked well and what's the one thing you can improve on.
yeah,
So, and that's really all I have people journal at the end of their dates is what worked really well and you know what's one thing you can work on. And then I also rate their dates. I just say just put it on a scale from 1 to 10. If it's an 8, 9, and 10,
yep,
was it worth you going out on the second date? Or if not, then don't even bother and really have that real heart-to-heart conversation with them so that one, it's not awkward in the future, and two, that you're not leading them on saying, yeah, I'll call you and not call them, and
yep,
putting
exactly.
all that negative karma out instead of actually putting the positive karma out there to find your soulmate.
So true. And I suppose in this process, when you do the action and reflection in particular, you probably learn more about how to judge better for the next date if that's going to work or not. So it
Exactly. And I found
reduces
out I
your
was a
wastage of
very
time.
exactly. And I found out I'm a very slow learner with that. I had to take a lot of dates, especially after I've helped people do it even faster and,
Yep,
60, 90, and 100 days.
there you go.
I started to realize, man, how'd you do that with so little of dates?
Fantastic. I love it. But I mean, that's a great segue into. I'd love to hear a story of, with one of your clients, not mentioning any names,
Yeah,
maybe someone that's really gone through the process and was just astounded by the result in a short period of time. I'd love to hear the story behind that. Have you got one that you
sure.
can share with us?
Sure. So I like to tell the story. How about my first client, which was
Sure.
great.
Great.
um, so, um, so my first client, Chris, he came to me and he's like, Jeff, I'd like to hire you as a coach. And I was like, yeah, sure. Let's get together. Let's go through it. And he said, so we got together and I was like, okay, so what's the goal you're trying to get accomplished? And he's like, well, I'm looking for my soulmate, and I know you found yours. I've heard your story
Yep.
and it's just exactly everything that I want. I've seen you with your wife and it's the same experience I want.
Nice.
And at the time I wasn't a dating coach, right? So I was thinking, oh, he wants me to be a business coach,
Yeah.
right? And sure enough, I was like, I guess I could do that because at the time I was writing the book.
Right.
Um, because too many people said you got to write a book to that story, and I fought that for so many reasons. I don't like to read.
Yeah.
I listen to audiobooks, but I won't read a
Yep.
book.
I'm like you. I'm exactly the same. Yep.
Let alone I don't feel like my English is so great. So it's like I definitely don't like writing. There's all these negative things. And then
Yep.
I realized that I was just being stingy by not sharing my story. And so finally I just did it. And and at the time I was doing it right then when it doesn't surprise me now that I say this, my mindset was so much into writing a book. I probably just automatically attracted him and had no clue
Exactly.
about
You
it.
probably will that scenario
I'm
into
sure
your
it
life.
happened, right?
Yep.
So we set 6 months. I said, yeah, let's set 6 months, because I was thinking 6 months is
Yeah.
probably close. They probably do it after my time frame.
Nice.
And so we did that and we started with these limiting beliefs and I started working them through my fifth power formula and automatically he started getting more clarity, more confidence, and he started to say, well, I think I know who she is now that we've kind of done this and I've written everything out. And I said, well, let's start going on dates. And he went on 3 or 4 dates. And then we started talking about his list. I have him make a list of like all the people in their community. And he started to realize he's like, I actually think I went out on a date with the one that fits all of this.
Oh, and he didn't even know.
and he didn't even know it. And I said, well, who is it? And, and so he went back and I said, just call her. I said, maybe she's single still.
Yeah.
I said, who knows? It's worth you going out on a date to find out based off what you know now and who you are now and what you're up to. And sure enough, he did, and he called me the next day. It's like, Jeff, she's definitely the one.
Oh my God. And how
You
long did that
know,
whole process take?
and that was like in 60, I think it was like 62 days or something like that.
Amazing. So he
And
halved your record.
yeah, I know. And so, and I was like, well, I guess there's no point for the other 4 months of coaching.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Oh, that's
so it
brilliant.
was it was so funny. I was just like, yeah, I don't need to charge you for the other 4 months because I was just charging them monthly,
Yep.
and I didn't really think about it. And so, but it was great. It was great. And so he's been married for over 10 years now,
Awesome.
with a few kids, and it's just like, I mean, he was a successful business owner
Yeah.
that had very little time to date, didn't want to go through all the hassles and all that other stuff, and
Yep.
and I told him, I said, if they don't meet your qualities, you just don't go out on a date with them. And,
Yeah.
he was just like, okay, I can do that. And sure enough, but here's the thing that was unique about him, because I always tell this with people, is he was consistent and he was persistent on following this formula and doing the actual homework. Like he
Right.
was 100% every day, had blocked off time and said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to get this done. And he showed up to the coaching calls like prepared. Jeff, I
Nice.
did this. I did this. Here's what I learned. Here's where I'm stuck. These are my questions. Like he was
Awesome.
really committed versus some people, they're just kind of think I got some magic wand that I can just whip around and say, whoop, there she is.
Yep.
And it's like, no, you really got to do the work.
Yep. Absolutely. You as a coach, you're facilitating the change within them. And
Yeah.
so they have to be committed and they have to be willing to do the work.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Wow, that's a great story. 60 days. I love it. Well done, Jeff. Jeff, that's been absolutely fantastic to discuss this with you. It's been, really eye-opening, and I've had so much fun doing it, and I hope the audience has really enjoyed it as well. But how do people get in contact with you if they want to find out a bit more about your services?
Well, for your guests, I've got something super, super special,
Hey.
right? So I asked my wife the other day, like, what is something I can really give someone like that's the best value? And she said it would be your time.
Nice.
And so I will give any of your listeners, the time to really walk through their goals and what they're focused on and whatever limiting beliefs is in the way, and help them find their soulmate or build their business or whatever it is. And they should just go to my website at hpxcall.com. And I think I sent that to you, so you have
Yes.
it.
I'll make sure I put that in the show notes for
Yeah,
you.
hpxcall.com. And that's my high performance exit, right?
Nice. Nice.
Call.com. And definitely I will spend time with you. And it's truly a value call. Like I'm not going to be some sales pitch. It's literally, let's get clarity on this. Let's get to work on this. It'd be no difference in my first session that I would do with anyone that
Exactly.
paid me.
Yep.
And at the end of that, you'll be clear if in the future you did want to work with me or not. If not, I believe what comes around goes around, and the more I give, the more difference I make to the world.
So true. I love that. I agree with that philosophy myself. Well, Jeff, that's absolutely fantastic. Is there anything that you want to leave us with before we finish up?
Um, I think the only other thing I would leave you with is, I didn't even know you're going to ask me this, but I want to show you this.
There we go.
Inside my wallet, I keep a picture here.
Love it.
I don't know.
Yeah. There you go.
There
I
you
can see
go.
it now. We can see it. Beautiful.
There it is.
On the cruise ship.
It's the cruise ship of me and my wife sipping daiquiris, right? Just like I said, I took that picture without her knowing. I was just like, I got to have some pictures of us having daiquiris because she didn't know the story at that time, right?
Oh, wow. That's great.
And I guess the thing I'll leave you is you can really create anything that you want by changing your thinking
Yep.
and following my fifth power formula. And
I
I
love it.
truly believe in that. And, so change your thinking, get into action, put yourself on the court and, let me support you however I can.
Sensational. Awesome, Jeff. And, as we mentioned before, those 5 powers are able to be used in any facet of your life, any goal that you want to achieve. Well done, Jeff. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I'm sure the audience has as well. I'm going to put all the notes in the show notes for the podcast so people can access your site and everything else in your book and make sure they get that exploratory call with you, that first session. So everybody out there, please thank Jeff, and I hope you've had a great podcast, and we'll see you very, very soon for episode 142. Thanks again, Jeff.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, man. Thanks again.